This is your BOMM Wednesday service. I am Naima Cochrane, your senior pastor, and with me, as always, I'll let him introduce himself.
Your director of health ministry, congregation. I need to speak to you all today.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
Pastor doesn't know that I'm doing this.
I really don't, because
I just want to let the congregation know, as your liaison to the Anointed One, that she is someone I didn't know she was, and I found out this week, you all, that we are in the presence of music royalty.
Okay, first of all, I'm hardly. No, because I can't let people think that I'm out here gassing myself more than I actually am.
There is a glow around the pastor, y'all. It's
a ring light.
It might be a ring light, you know what? But you know what? It is a glow. I have learned so much sitting down with the Anointed One, having conversations, and listen, she is a true vessel of the Lord. And that
what Carron is saying is that he never bothered to read my bio nor actually listen to any interviews where I talk about what I actually did for a living. That's what he means.
I got the notes that the bio didn't go into detail about.
Okay, fair. That's fair. Basically, what happened was Carron and I had a conversation yesterday about some of my experiences over my time in the music industry. And he feels like I'm way too casual with referencing people I know, things I've seen and done, etc., and my access. But I tried to explain to him that for me and for my peers, my life career has been, comparatively speaking, relatively normal for my peers in entertainment, although I know it's not for other people.
She deserves a Netflix documentary, and that's all I'll say.
That's absolutely do not.
I would say,
because who I am not is Clarence Avant. I ain't even met Clarence Avant. See, I can't even talk that low.
But you know people who know him.
I do, but that's different. All right, we have a lot to cover today, and Rob is probably already rolling his eyes because that means we're going to run over. But so we tape on Tuesday nights. You guys hear us on Wednesday mornings. Last week was
shitty.
Last week was a lot. It was heavy. It was taxing, but that's also been like every week this year, and also every week 2016, also every week since 2014, also every week in the existence of Black people. But last week was really a lot. It was so much that when I was sitting in Carron,
we've been tired since the Garden of Eden. That's what you're saying.
Child,
ever Adam ate that fruit, it's just been downhill from us. Just ever since. Yeah, I mean, why you couldn't stick to the veggies, dog? You just had to.
But last week there were so many things happened last week that when I was putting together the topics list to send to Carron, I actually forgot about the NBA strike. Like, I already forgot about the NBA strike. Like, that's how much happened last week. So, but before we get into it, I just want to, last week I almost forgot to do this, and this is why I'm supposed to do a top of show. Let me do the housekeeping, the administrative, deacon board, light bill paying things. You guys already know the spiel by now, but let's go through it. We can call these church announcements. That's what we're going to call them, church announcements. So, again, you are with us here right now, wherever you may be, at whatever point you may be listening to us. And you are listening to us on the BOMM feed of Count the Dings. So Count the Dings has an array of programming for you on, and I'm going to do this out of the normal order I usually do it just to mix things up. On the BOMM feed on Tuesday, we have the OG show with the guys, Amin, Waz, Jerv, Trey, etc. The Black Opinions Matter motherfucker OG show, which most of you guys originally know me from. On Tuesdays, that's on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, you have me and Carron with Wednesday service. On Thursdays, you have Woke Bros with Waz, and you have Growing Up the Same with Trey. And then on the Count the Dings feed, you have the Dad Pod on Monday, Cinephobes on Wednesday, and the Friday mailbag. And there is also, I believe, still the Pack Your Knives feed. I need to look into that. On Thursdays, which is a Top Chef-centered podcast. I know it sounds very niche, but it's very entertaining. And then if that's not enough for you and you want more, you can always subscribe to our Patreon for exclusive content. That's patreon.com/countthedings. And as always, we do have commentary for you to redirect your money from Shaun King, but we're going to get back to that because we have a special Shaun King mini discussion to go into today. So let's start with Carron. I'm actually going to turn this over to you. Let's start with like proper acknowledgments and tributes. We've lost some people just over the past several days. Two of them in the sports, beyond the sports world, but from the sports world. And since you are here with a sports jersey on, that seems to indicate to me, I love it. That indicates to me that you should take the floor for Cliff Robinson and for Coach Thomas. Thompson.
So many. In the year of losing Kobe, in the year of losing David Stern, to use it.
Yo, I forgot David Stern died this year.
To use a Don King term, we've lost already two magnanimous sports figures. And over this past week, there was Clifford Robinson. Most people know him from those Portland Trailblazer teams that lost to the Bulls and to the Bad Boy Pistons, late 80s and early 90s in the finals. The original wearer of the headband. We lost Lute Olson, historic Hall of Fame coach of Arizona. And if you don't remember that Arizona team in 97 when they won it all, they were the only team in NCAA tournament that beat 3 number 1 seeds on the way to a championship. And that's the team where Mike Bibby premiered the foam posits, the pennies, before Penny even realized them. So all the DC DMV listeners, because I know DC heads, all they wear is foams. Like Mike Bibby and that 97 team coached by Lute Olson was from that. Then
I used to love Mike Bibby. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Then it was Big John Thompson, which kind of just came out of nowhere. And when John Thompson's, I had the same feeling kind of with Kobe, because the outlet that broke it was a radio station in DC. And it was late that night. And I saw it before I went to bed. And I was just like, this has to be a hoax. This has to be a joke. Someone got some bad information. Because as I kept refreshing, the journalist in me was like, all right, where are the secondary sources? And there weren't any by the time I got to bed. And then I woke up and like Woj had it and everyone else did. And I was just like, damn, this is real. And then we were hit with, Chadwick Boseman. And it's just been.
Well, I feel like the listeners know. I just want to go back to Coach Thompson, to Big John for a second, because somebody was talking about this on the timeline, and I just wanted to reiterate. If you were, okay, I'm going to speak about me. So I was in high school from 89 to 93. I owned like 3 Georgetown outfits. Like that's it? It was, well, because I also had to make room for the UNLV outfits. And
all the
Michigan outfits,
all the super black teams from
all the super black teams, and we all had the gear. But it was also like, I used to think that the reason I was so engaged in college basketball back then was because they were closer to my age, and then I realized it was like, oh, we kept the players all 4 years still. Yeah. Then, so like it was, so you had like built up rivalries over time. Big East basketball was like off the chain. It was just to me a really exciting time in college ball, but also like them fits used to be hard. Like that merch used to be. It's
hitting. Also like we grew up when.
Oh, also at Duke merch too. Let me not.
We are
that,
in that. We came of age in the group when like the coolest black teams popped up in college basketball, and there's a hierarchy now, and I'll explain it very quickly. Like. Me being from Michigan, you had the Fat Five that changed how you dressed, in the shorts, in the black socks, in the shoes, and the bald heads, and 5 freshmen starting. That had never, ever happened, ever. before, a couple years before them, it was UNLV. And it was this super black team with some JUCO players that looked like they were grown men, and Larry Johnson had gold teeth. And you were just like, what is this? And they was beating teams by like 30 and 40 and going undefeated. And it just looked like dudes that was 29 playing against freshmen. And you were just like, this isn't fair. What is this? Before that, with the Georgetown and the Carolina, like if you are black and of a certain age and you grew up around your father or your uncles or your grandparents, you either had like a million Georgetown sweatshirts and T-shirts like I did, or North Carolina. And the reason why was, like we talked about last week with music, and sports was very regional. And these were two teams that were on TV a lot, but North Carolina kind of broke the color barrier with Charlie Scott in the South in the ACC. So they were the teams that older black men was like, okay, let's cheer for North Carolina. They actually given up a shot. And then John Thompson came through and turned this very, very white school in this very, very white affluent area.
The blackest basketball program
in Chocolate City, but like Georgetown's campus is the whitest thing in DC, and he had them wearing kente cloth, and you were just like, what the hell is this? Like, I was like 13 before I realized it wasn't the HBCU. And
I knew Georgetown wasn't. So that's what somebody asked on the timeline. I knew it wasn't an HBCU. I had no idea it was that white. Like, Georgetown was on my college list at one point just because of the basketball program. And my mom and my parents went to school in DC. It's not like I was unfamiliar with DC schools, but we really just, our visual representation of Georgetown was a bunch of black kids, a bunch of black students, a bunch of young black men.
The coach, the roster,
and the coach.
Like, all you saw when Georgetown came on your TV wasn't just black people, but like extra black ass people. And I wrote this in my story about the Thompson thing. And 2010 was the first time I went to Georgetown campus. My ex-girlfriend was there for grad school, went to see her, and we had to stop by campus. And we were walking around with the Georgetown cupcake, and I was just like, oh, this is the whitest shit ever. And then that's when it hit me, and I was like, how did John Thompson pull this off? Because, like, we were the only two black people walking around.
Imagine John Thompson bringing Allen Iverson, who had a record, who technically shouldn't have probably even been able to get in a school with an honor code, let alone be recruited for an elite basketball program. Like, I feel like today there would have been a Twitter campaign because everybody would have been pearl clutching and acting up. But for that alone, for bringing us AI for real, like, John Thompson has my, like, eternal love and respect, because no other coach would have done that.
Yeah, especially with how AI's like rise to grace as the number one player in the country, arguably in football and basketball at that point. And then when the situation happened at the bowling alley and no one wanting to touch him.
His entire life, like, without John Thompson, Allen Iverson would still be maybe like a regional legend for people who knew his high school career, but none of us would have ever heard of this dude. He would have had a normal ass job somewhere. Who knows what would have happened? He probably would have ended up in the criminal system, in the criminal justice system. And I say this not as a statistic, but because I actually know people who Allen hung with, and that would have happened. And you know, it's just like, this is the difference in somebody seeing past
your present,
like, dumb shit. Yeah, like, and actually putting in context, like, this is a kid, he's clearly got talent, he made a mistake, let me give him a second chance, which too many of our young black people don't get. And
lastly, like, the thing that people often don't mention is that we all know what John Thompson and Georgetown did for Allen Iverson. Like, Allen Iverson always says John Thompson saved his life. But what people don't really talk about is what Allen Iverson did for Georgetown. Because Allen Iverson made Georgetown cool to a new generation. Like, we cheered for them because someone in our family liked them because they were the black school. Allen Iverson was ours. It was like, this is the dude with the patent of the Jays and the kente cloth. And if you studied Georgetown basketball, they were defensive minded. It wasn't about scoring. It wasn't about one player. And AI got there, and Thompson basically was like, no, you do what you want to do on offense, and we'll play defense. And we have never seen John Thompson give offensive freedom to anyone ever. And then look what we got out of it with Allen Iverson. And then, like, for us, it was just like, oh, this isn't just a black school. Like, this is the cool black program. Okay. And because if Iverson doesn't go there, of course, like you said, he's still some regional legend, but still, I think the prestige that Georgetown had falls off for other generations, and they don't view it as oh, that's the school AI went to, because a lot of kids don't remember Ewing and Alonzo and Mutombo. It was the big man school, and big men ain't sexy. But when you got
and AI is not a big man,
and when you got AI, who is, we can talk about the biggest cultural icon maybe in basketball history, and you add him,
literally changed the culture and energy of young basketball players, like changed the whole perception of the swag of a ball player, like completely changed. Yeah.
So it was a perfect marriage that works for everybody, and that rarely happens.
So Coach Thompson, we thank you, we salute you. You completed a work. And also with somebody who completed a work. So, like, as you said on Friday night, late Friday, it was like, what, like 11, 10, 30, something. It was late. News broke that Chadwick Boseman had died at 43 after a battle with colon cancer. And that he had actually been diagnosed in 2016 with stage 3, which means that he shot Black Panther and
21 Bridges
and the Spike joint,
the 5 Bloods.
But because of the physicality, because he did his own stunts, I think Black Panther and Infinity War Endgame really stand out, because I thought about. So let me back up. Last week I was really careful about how much I was processing news, because from the time that Jacob got shot, I knew that I had to be careful, because I think what we say this, but I need people to really understand that for the Black people that non-Black people who are listening, when we see this happen, it is impossible for us to not think about that could be family, right? It is impossible for us to not process that as somebody that we know. There's not a real ability to detach from it anymore. Maybe there once was, but not that stopped. I want to say that stopped at Ferguson. And in order to just even be able to be on Zooms with y'all, calls with y'all, respond to emails, and like be normal and not just like
pop off.
flip the fuck out requires an enormous feat of
grace,
and also like a compartmentalism,
self-awareness,
and also like a little bit of, like, I realized that I was like, I gotta put up like a retaining wall or something. Like you kind of gotta decide to selectively take information in, right? Because it'll get to a point where it's just too much. Like you're not gonna be able to deal with it. So that's what I was doing last week, because I had, I think, like 3 deadlines that I had to get through. And I was like, if I watch the videos of the players, if I watch LeBron's press conference, if I watch what Chris Webber just said, if I watch this clip, if I watched the news conference with Jacob's sister, if I watch, like, I'm the dam's gonna break. But when I heard about Chad, I was writing my piece on Brandy and Monica, which we're gonna talk about. And I was towards like that last quarter, like I was coming in for the close, and I decided to take a break and go on. I wasn't on Twitter. I was on this other app, Clubhouse, and I popped into, and somebody kept pinging me to come. So Clubhouse is a new app, and it's divided by rooms, but it's audio only. So somebody kept pinging me to come into a room. I was in another room, so I finally went in there, and they were talking about Chad. This is what I heard when I went in there. Talking about Chad, keep Chad's wife in mind and what she's been through with him with the cancer and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, shit. Are they talking about Chadwick? So then I came out of it, and then I went to Twitter, and I was like, fuck, Chadwick Boseman's dead. And, you know, we'd been seeing pictures of him over the past year. And saying, you know, he didn't look healthy. I hope he's okay.
Is this for a movie role?
If it's for a role, and that was my. I chose to decide it was for a role because I feel like a lot of us are very quick to assume something's wrong with somebody as soon as they alter their appearance, drop weight.
I was like, oh, he went full Christian Bale. He's got some role coming up. This is what this is for.
Because we'd be quick to put somebody in the grave. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to assume. But it made me think about after Black Panther and after Endgame, how we would comment about how tired Chadwick looked to giving the Wakanda Forever salute. And I was like, yo, he was really tired. Like, his body had to be like 2 years of promo just straight back to back. Because like from Black Panther going into Infinity War, it was just...
And 21 Bridges. You know? It was...
And then 21 Bridges, and then he was still shooting. And he was still...
the Ma Rainey movie. He shot the Ma Rainey Black Bottom.
He shot the Ma Rainey's Black Bottom movie. And he was under contract to do... he was signed on to do a movie about a black martial arts. No, a black samurai. A black samurai, like a actual black samurai. You know, another historical figure. I can't recall the name. And that, you know, Carron, that thinking about like that quiet dignity to choose not, like Ryan Coogler didn't even know he was
Nobody.
Sick. So choosing to push through.
Spike Lee said the same thing.
Yeah, what must have been like incredible physicality, bring all of it to filming because he knew how important this comic book movie was for us. That broke me. That finally broke
and then
me. Because that was just...
And then also the fact, it wasn't that like you said, the stunts and you're the star of the movie. Like, you have to understand what came with that. Because you're carrying the movie and all the press runs, all the questions, all for you.
But we also literally made him T'Challa. Yeah. Like, we literally made him T'Challa.
Sent you everywhere. You're on all these all these photo shoots, all these interviews. And then...
And international junkets, not just local, international
And then after that, and you got Infinity Wars, you got Endgame, you got 21 Bridges. The normal stuff you did before for movie promo, it's bigger than ever because... You've reached another tier of celebrity. Like you went from being an actor to a movie star. When you were a movie star,
that's different.
That is a different type of thing you have to deal with. And it wasn't just that, like, he was just Black Panther. It was just like, nah, he was Chadwick Boseman now. And you're featured on stuff, and people are inviting you, and the invites go up, and what's expected of you in front of cameras and in front of people is different because you're not the guy that's, I think he was James Brown or he was Jackie Robinson. It's like, oh, no, you're that guy. And when you're that guy, you have to always be on. And to always be on with what he was dealing with, like, I just can't imagine the amount of endurance, physical endurance.
Yeah, physical endurance, emotional endurance. There was a clip. And it started spreading after I saw it the first time. And after I saw it some, I couldn't watch it again when he was talking about how... Because he was doing work with Children's Hospital with children who had cancer. And he was talking about two little boys who...
Oh, when they did the radio interview when they were on there?
Yeah, when he was talking about two little boys. He was with, all his co-stars. He was talking about two little boys who, their diagnosis was terminal. And they were trying to hold on till the movie came out. And when I say that Chadwick's voice, this is how you know how much he was holding together. Chadwick's voice was level and clear. And then he just said, and when I found out and it's like something in him just cracked open. It wasn't even like it was building up, right? He went from like a completely level speaking voice. So, immediately, and I imagine that crack in him is something that he was holding together this entire time, right? And also that he was giving himself to us to create this legacy of Black, to intentionally create this legacy of Black storytelling when he could have been home with his wife for, you know, X number of years, but he knew how important the stories he was part of were. And that, to me, like, that level of sacrifice, you know, people might say, you know, y'all making him sound like a hero when he was an actor. No, what he's doing in terms of representation was so important. It was so important, and he recognized that, and he was so intentional in it. And, you know, there is something to take away from that. There is something to take away.
If you think about the last 5, 6, 7 years, there are two things that have changed the game in terms of Black people in Hollywood and when it comes to television and movies. In television, it was like it, hate it, love it, liked it for a little bit, then it got trashed. Empire, what Empire did for television for Black people and what Black Panther did in movies. No matter how...
Wait, what did Empire do? Because Empire brought the primetime
Empire broke. It was like all of a sudden, we got all these Black shows that came out of nowhere. And if Empire would have sucked, who knows what happens. But when Empire show, hey, Black people and all Black on Fox at 8, 9 o'clock once a week can be the hottest show on TV. Not the best, but the hottest. Every other studio was just like, we got to get us a Black show.
Again, which, by the way, had happened 20 years ago. So it was almost like a cycle.
It was like the 90s all over again. But with the way we have social media and you can hear fans, you know, in real time what they think, and then think about all the Black shows that came after Empire and how good they all were, and how that's leading to other stuff and more stuff and more stuff. There's just been this snowball effect, and the same with Black Panther. Think about all the Black movies that have come out since Black Panther and how well they've done. And you got a Moonlight, and even this terrible, this Green.
Wait, wasn't Moonlight before? Moonlight was before.
You're right. My bad. Moonlight was.
Yeah, I think Black Panther was part. What I do think though is that with Black Panther, what it shows is that you can have Black stories that aren't centered around Black trauma, and that's what we needed. Like we have never actually had a lot of Black fantasy, futuristic, you know, superhero based storytelling, especially not like a blockbuster situation.
And the closest thing we had, I know people was talking about Blade back in the day, Wesley Snipes, but the closest thing was,
he was a vampire.
Yeah, but like that Blade kicked off Marvel movies. But when X-Men first came out, and those movies were being huge numbers, and we had one in there with Halle Berry playing Storm, and if you talk to like comic book nerds, especially Black ones, they will get pissed off talking about that and how Storm was depicted and how she always had this small role, the one Black person, when I was like, look, if you actually read the comics or know the backstories, like Storm was the strongest.
Storm was a beast.
Like besides Professor X mutant, and they just had her like making it rain. And that was it. And they were just like, y'all got the best one in the bunch and y'all just got her in the corner being cute. Like, what's up with this? So to fast forward away to Black Panther, where it was just like, oh, they got everything. Like, and you even got like a villain. That's what made me like, I appreciate Black Panther so much, is that the villain story. I was always, when the movie came out, you know, people were like, was you rocking with the child or were you rocking with Killmonger? And like, Killmonger was my guy because his reasoning behind what made him the quote unquote villain was so real. And I'm like, yeah, like that's how Black people feel. That is exactly, we have those conversations. And it wasn't some comic-y book, oh, I want this power, or it wasn't no Thanos, I want some stones. It was like, nah, like I'm Black, y'all turned y'all back on me. I'm trying to liberate Black people. What's up? And it was like, oh, he's got a point. Like, this is good. Where are we going?
A complicated villain, And so I just, you know, Ryan Coogler wrote that he was literally had been working on the script for Black Panther 2, and you know how much it broke his heart that he wasn't going to be able to see Chadwick deliver those lines. What I do want to say is, Black people, stop making your baby hold funerals with their action figures and put pictures of it on Instagram. Stop that. Stop telling your children that Black Panther is dead. Black Panther is not dead. Chadwick Boseman is dead.
Because we had 48 Batmans.
If your baby is 5, they don't even need to know that Chadwick Boseman died. Black Panther is fine. If I see one more, like the first little Marvel heroes funeral I saw, the first one I was like, oh, that's sweet and that's noble and everything. Then the 6th one where the kid was like in tears, streaming down his face. Like, it looked like they needed to hold a newspaper up next to him for the date. Like, he looked like he was really forced to do that. I was like, yeah, y'all taking this too far. These babies don't need to know Chadwick is dead. And even if they do, you got to explain to them the difference. Like, don't tell them Black Panther. That Black Panther, somebody brought this up. Not only is Black Panther a character, but even if you want to liken it to the actual canon, Black Panther is a role that is passed down from generation to generation.
We watched the first Black Panther die when his daddy blew up.
Exactly. Black Panther. So if you want to go by that, Black Panther been dead. So so just stop tormenting your babies for likes. That's all I was gonna say. Right, let's move on because we already well into this shit.
Tormenting your babies for likes.
I also just wanted to tell y'all that Shaun King remains not shit.
Send out
an email round about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, the day after Chadwick died. So not even a real full 12 hours after Chadwick died. That was essentially, I'm paraphrasing, and y'all are going to think I'm really exaggerating with my paraphrasing, but y'all can go to my Instagram or my Twitter and see where I posted it. Actually, several people posted it. You can search Shaun King email on Twitter and you'll find it. But the paraphrase was basically, hey, y'all, so I sent y'all an email yesterday just to check, because he had sent out an email on Friday just to say, how are you? No, really, how are you? Hit me back and let me know how you're doing. I'm going to check my email, whatever. So he does that occasionally to make
you feel like
however many bajillion people he's spamming to make you feel like there's a personal connection there. But so his email was like, hey, y'all, remember like I emailed you yesterday to check on you and ask how you were doing? And then we found out Chadwick Boseman died. Wow, that's crazy. That's why you should buy my book.
Yes.
And here's the Amazon link, and here is this other link, and here's this other link, and here's this other link, and here's this other link. I love all y'all. Bye. That's an extreme paraphrasing, but not really. Like that
was the play. That's what happened.
I'm not really stretching it that far. No. So the good news is I can always tell when Shaun's trending now because I start seeing people start jumping. People start tagging us. Yeah, don't fuck him, really, seriously. And I think that this might be because it's a celebrity and it's not a Black victim of violence, because it's a celebrity who died through an illness and not through violence.
I think illness that has touched probably all of us.
Many. And also because it's a beloved celebrity, right? I think that this has finally gotten some people to be like, oh, wait, that's grimy. And then this nigga sat up there like, I literally did not use my email. I literally did not use chat to sell my book. No, you absolutely did. That's what your email did. You could have just left that out. Or you could have or you could have rescheduled. You could have sent the email another day. Because he said there was already an email scheduled to go out. You could have sent it out another day. You didn't need to send it out that day. You didn't need to send it out that morning, first thing.
But you know what the positive of all this is? Is that...
is the illumination of it?
It is every time I check my mentions and I see your name tagged with mine, I get a little choked up inside because y'all are listening. Y'all are listening.
They do listen. They are really
y'all
listening.
Are hitting us up with the tagline, with the hashtag, and I'm like, we are making a change in the world.
And you know what? I appreciate
because y'all are finally understanding that y'all need to stop giving a white man y'all money.
And this is where I give the disclaimer that I actually do not insist that Shaun King is white. I don't know what boy is, but stop giving him your money.
He's white.
Whatever you believe his ethnicity to be.
Because only a white man that's trifling would do some shit like that.
I do have to say that if there was a case for Shaun being white, putting Chadwick in that fucking email, that's a pretty convincing argument in and of itself. Just that by itself is pretty like...
Taste the soup.
That is pretty like... That is, yeah. You know what?
Come on over.
I'm just saying, yeah.
Back if you need me to dunk you in the water. I'm here.
Okay. So yeah, fuck Shaun King as always. And even Newsweek caught wind of it. And Shaun King for once did not, Newsweek did a story on it. Shaun for once did not give a comment. Shaun always gives a comment. Shaun always gives a comment. He did double down and said that he didn't regret putting Chad's name in the email. I wonder if that maintained. But anyway, moving on. So the other thing that happened on a lighter note-ish. So since the moment Verzuz started and fans were debating what matchups they would love to see, Brandy and Monica, Bran and were up on the top of the leaderboard, right? But,
and they were up there because we just felt like we could never get it. You know, we always want stuff.
Right, we knew we were never going to get it. We knew we were probably never going to get it. But the other reason that they were up there was because for bless their hearts, for their entire careers, these women cannot be mentioned one without the other. And my heart goes out to them for that because that's really unfair. Their entire careers. They have to be tethered, aligned, whatever have you. So Monica said in May, I think, that she wasn't interested for that very reason. For the reason that...
Sidebar, if you all want to listen or read a fabulous write-up that chronicles all of this, please head over to Zora at medium.com. There's a wonderful, wonderful article by a young lady named Naima Cochrane.
Yes, somebody had asked me if I was going to write about this, and I told them I felt like I was over-indexed on Verzuz content. But then Christina Tapper,
shout out to Tap,
who is an editor at Zora, asked me to take a look at their beef, quote unquote, feuds over the years and determine like how much was real and how much was made up. And what I discovered was that even though like I've been there on the journey since the beginning, what I discovered was that for the last several years, like it's been kind of one-sided. It's really been kind of Brandy keeping it going, and I'm not sure why.
We found out last night.
We found out last night. We still don't know why. We just saw it in real time.
I found out. I listen.
But there was real. So wait, let me go back. So in May, Monica said she didn't want to do it. When I was talking to Tim and Swizz for the Billboard piece, they were telling me that Monica was coming around. And I know Ray J already had Brandy sold on the idea. Because Ray J was one of the first people to bring it up publicly.
You know why?
He brought it up on the Wendy Williams show. Because he's messy?
No, because he had one wish.
You know what? Whatever. So, 2 weeks ago, which I think is the earliest we've ever had a Verzuz announcement, they announced that we were getting Brandy and Monica. And everybody was like, first everybody pro-clutched. But then the fans, who are the problem, started throwing shots at the two ladies. And they're the problem, right? Like, they keep this shit going. So when I researched my article, what I realized was that the comparisons, I don't know. I really don't know because it was them and Aaliyah. They were the three that came out around the same time, same age. They were in their own little group with Usher. It was, in terms of age and exact timing, the four of them in their own little R&B class. But they didn't compare Aaliyah. They just compared Brandy and Mo. And they always had different vocal styles. They always had different personal styles. And obviously, they always had very different personalities. And I think that when they met for real, they just didn't like each other. And I can see it. You know, Brandy was like the goody-goody America sweetheart. You know,
she had that Whitney Houston package. Like, you saw it, that same playbook.
But the thing was that Monica actually was should have been closer to the Whitney Houston package. She was under Clive. Mm-hmm. She had that beautiful, clear contralto, right? But she was actually hood. The thing was that Monica didn't feel like hiding the hood. She wasn't inclined to hide the hood.
It always felt like Monica was actually who Whitney Houston was in real life, and they wanted Brandy to be who Whitney Houston presented to be.
Exactly. And Whitney gravitated towards Monica because she saw herself in Monica, and obviously she gravitated towards Brandy because Brandy also was a talented singer, actor. Yeah, so she put her arm around both of these young women. But over the years, so there definitely was smoke, and I believe it was some more like kind of what we saw last night. Brandy probably throwing digs at Monica because she hood, and there was an occasion where Monica punched her in the face.
Pop.
Just real quick,
Pop.
just cause. But that was a very long time ago, and but with all of this. My thing is, like, it probably cost us so much. Like, The Boy Is Mine was number one for 13 weeks. They performed that song together live one time. You know, we could have had a whole tour, and that was on the VMAs in 98.
Number one for like 10 years. Like, that shit.
It's the top selling female duet of all time. Still, right now, today. Not Whitney and Mariah, but Brandy and Monica. Matt, we could have got The Boy Is Mine tour. We could have got a fucking, who knows? If they could have worked the show, we could have got remixes of Brandy and Monica fucking duet album or something. I mean, they came back together in 2012 for It All Becomes to Me. Could have been all kind of shit. They could have done all kind of shit together, but no.
Like they did with the Jacksons.
But no, we like to be messy. We like mess too much, which is the same thing that's been going on in the internet. So what I think we saw last night, so first of all, last night was fantastic. The culture needed it. Both ladies,
really,
whatever. You about to hate. Both ladies' music is on the single side and the album side. It has re-entered the top 40 in Apple Music. They're just like literally all their shit is back into the top 40, which is awesome. They broke 1.1 million viewers on IG, which is a record for Verzuz on IG because Face and Teddy were still doing a dual screen and the bandwidth couldn't support it. So I think they capped out at like 8 something for Teddy and Face, but I don't know yet what the viewership was for Apple TV. And some people like me watch it on both. Like I would be Instagram on my phone and Apple on the screen, on the TV screen. But Brandy's weird.
Yeah, that's why I was like, last night was strange. Because
I mean, we needed the music, and I personally needed people to be reminded that Monica can fucking sing, and she had bops. People act like Monica has only ever been on
Missy tracks,
adult R&B, or just on adult R&B radio. Like Monica was on a pop. She was on a pop track. Yeah. Monica was on that pop path, that pop star path. But, you know, she was 16 years old dating C Murder and, you know, doing shit like that. And Cloud was having a heart attack. But yeah, Brandy is what happens when people have parents as managers for their entire career and like never move them motherfuckers out. And don't. Because I was really thinking last night, like, I don't know of Brandy to have friends except for her mama and Ray J.
Yeah, I saw that tweet. So one tweet, the two funniest tweets I saw were Ray J really is her best friend and only friend, and that
like legit.
And it was like Brandy is dressed like how Andale used to be dressed in Moesha. And that's why it was so weird to me, because I was at a little watch party last night. We was in the backyard. We were distancing. We were outside. We were mashed up. But the conversations we were having, and we just started going down the line, and we weren't blaming Brandy. We were kind of just like coming to the realization.
I blame Sonia.
That all of this stuff like was happening to her, because it just felt like she was never allowed to be a child or a teenager from the fake wedding that she got on TV and talked about. She never got married, to the vehicular manslaughter, to the relationships that were very public and then went away. Because I was like, people don't even talk about. She was with Quentin Richardson for a long time, and that never developed.
She was with Q, and then she was engaged to a Sony exec whose name I can't remember. And then that just went. You can just tell that she. What I realized was what we've seen from her for the past few years, when people were like Brandy, like when she was being like whatever about the So Gone challenge, which turned into a whole
like
thing.
A couple years ago, and she did a show and she was lip singing, and it was like that. Brandy don't lip sing, like.
Well, also like she did a Soul Train Award. She changed her lyrics to reference Monica.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like 2016, 2017. Monica posted something about Whitney. Monica said something about Whitney. Brandy posted something about Whitney, like everybody wants what we had. It's all really petty. And I realized that Brandy just never, two things, and I'm talking shit. I don't know Brandy Norwood in person, for real. But just as someone, again, who's observed her entire career, and who know a couple people, I know a producer who was like, yo, she's wild annoying in the studio. And then she mentioned that she'd be doing like 32 takes and all this kind of shit. And if you notice, like, her collaborative list is not broad.
Nope.
But I was like, yo, she's jealous of Monica's ability to have really just been who the fuck she was. Her whole career.
Freedom.
Right? Freedom, and like, and own it and turn it into a lane. Now Monica has songs like called like Sideline Hoe. Like, Monica was like, I'm just going, this is where I'm at. This is my
The story
lane.
about that last night was hilarious with the tank stuff.
And I own that, yeah. And like, I own that shit. But even with that, Brandy's telling Sarai, cover her ears. Sarai's 18 years old. She need to cover ears to hear her. Ray J is her uncle.
Got a whole ass sex tape and stay on the blogs. Like,
her uncle stay with Sideline. Like, what? So even that was like, what? So it's like I think that's definitely the most time they ever spent together where they were forced to only interact with each other and not anybody else directly. And I think that Brandy literally does not know any other way to talk to Monica other than to keep the good girl, hood girl shit going. And it's like, y'all 40. Like, stop the madness. What did you think?
One of the comments that I either read or heard somebody say was, you can tell that Brandy came up in a way where it's media training, present this way, present that way. And we know Monica always bucked that. And that might have been why her star wasn't as bright to some, not to all, back in the day. But now we live in a day and age where we crave authenticity, which is why now for the last 5-10 years, the persona has changed. It's like, we looking at Monica like, no, that's the homie. It's the jokes, Gunica. Like, hey, she ain't with the games. We respect that. We like that. All the stuff in her relationships and the kids. It's like, that's relatable to where you look at Brandy. She's still the girl in the glass house. And it's like, don't nobody got time for that. Don't nobody want to deal with you. And I think Brandy's just like, wait, this is how I became a star. Now y'all telling me that what I am, nobody wants.
And you can tell she really can't adjust to it. And the other thing with Monica, though, is that as much as everybody calls her Gunica and all that other shit, Monica had to grow up so young. So she was trying to tell this. She was not tell it, but she was referencing, like, what she had gone through kind of at a young age. And Brandy kind of, like, talked over her, diverted, because I think she knew that Monica was getting to the point about Whitney, like, being there for her in Atlanta and helping her out, and Brandy be looking away when she tells that story. And because Brandy feels like only she can talk about Whitney. And, but what Monica was trying to reference was when she was 18, her boyfriend at the time shot himself in front of her, committed suicide in front of her. So imagine going through that at 18. Like, he locked himself in the car. She was standing outside the car. She couldn't get to him. And then she actually said that she went to her car and got her own gun. So Monica's packing at 18. Let's also revisit that part, to get the car open and get to him, but it was too late. And like at that point, this little girl over here from Brentwood talking about whatever the fuck is not going to feel important to me anymore.
And on top of that, having to Monica at 18 and who she might have dated and been with before that, you know, that, like, we was talking about last night, like, people forgot, because we kept reminding some of my homegirls, was like, yeah, like,
Brandy and
Wayne? She was 14 when Miss Thing dropped. Like, people forget, like, she was, that's when like she was 13, like, yeah, 14, I was 12 when I sang this, and it was like, people like, 12 was like, yeah, y'all forgot the album came out when she was 14. These songs were made before 14, because this back in the day where you worked on albums a year or so
before you put them out.
Yeah, like not you just wait in the studio for 3 weeks and boom, you hit. It was like
right.
You had A&R and you had artist development. It took a year or two for an album to come out. So it was like, yeah. Like,
Dallas did what he needed to do on that damn album. That album was amazing. Like, I like Brandy's album, but I rocked with Miss Thing album so hard. It was, and it's still, to me, that album still holds up. That album still holds up. But listen, shout out to Brandy and Monica. I don't think they never need to be friends. Their names will always be put together. They don't need to be friends. They just need to be able to fucking, like, I believe Monica when she says that she respects Brandy's voice and all that she can do. I also just need Brandy fans to chill the fuck out. Like, calm. Brandy's so overrated. She's the vocal Bible. Tell her to make better song choices then. Like, we just don't. It's not that we don't believe she can sing. Y'all also put way too much weight on her runs. I know not everybody can do a run. I know that she's amazing at runs. I know that even Monica can't do runs the way Brandy can do runs. But Brandy can't sing For You I Will the way Monica can sing For You I Will either.
Brandy is...
Monica's voice is just like, it's just...
Brandy is the...
I mean, Monica's voice is just... I love Brandy's smoke and her layers, but that Monica contralto, that shit...
Brandy's the better singer, but if, like we talk about this when I talk about like my favorite R&B groups, when you want to feel something, you putting on a Monica song.
And Brandy mentioned that last night. She was like, Monica, you just reminded me that I need to feel what I'm singing because I'm too much of a perfectionist. And I agree with that. Like, Brandy technically is a dynamic singer, but Monica's tone, though, I sometimes, it depends on the material, but sometimes it's like Monica's tone is gorgeous. All right, we are almost out of time. The last couple of things we want to congratulate. Well, I want to congratulate Neicy Nash on her new and surprising nuptials to singer Jessica. What's Jessica's last name?
Listen, I have thought about this since we.
I don't remember her new wife's last name. Love wins, and I'm not being snarky. I know y'all like Naima has hesitancy in her voice, only because I was very surprised. But then I also realized that in 2020, it's not my fucking business. You like it, I love it. Carron, what did you say?
We talked a while about this yesterday in production for this show. And this is what I came up with. I have no comment on it, but this is the question I want to ask.
Okay.
Because this is the journalist in me. This is the button pusher in me. This is I like to look at things in a certain way sometimes in me.
Carron Phillips' thoughts are his own and not indicative of Naima Cochrane or Wednesday Service or the BOMM podcast or Count the Dings. Go ahead.
So, to give context, this is why I'm asking this question. Last fall, I wrote a column that went viral and blew up. When I mean viral, I mean viral. Your boy was on Tamron Hall show talking about this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. It was about the situation last football season. Dan Mullen, who's the coach of University of Florida, his wife, this white woman, there's this game day tradition where she kisses all the players as they get off the bus going into the stadium. And the video went viral, so I wrote about it. That stuff went viral. Me and Tamron were talking about this. And I asked this question in the column, and me and Tamron talked about it a little bit. And I was like, my question why I brought this up was, and I called her, I said that she was sexually harassing these boys clubs, like, they're all like black. She's this white woman. I was like, you can't tell me that a black woman, or if this was switched, a man of any color could do that to an all-female team, even if some was cool with it and some kisses were on the cheek and some were on the lips. It was something about that, that was 2019, felt wrong. And so when things like that happen, I'm always like, okay, my question is...
I'm really waiting for you to connect this.
My question was, what happens if this flip? So, Neicy Nash happens, right? So my question was, as I thought about today, what would the public reaction be if that situation was flipped and a man did what Neicy did?
I don't know. We've never seen that happen.
Exactly. So I was like, I took whatever feelings I had.
But when you say what a man did, what Neicy did, like, Neicy was a fully divorced person for a while.
I know that, but I'm saying I think what caught people off guard with Neicy was, one, we was like, wait, is it divorce final? Or we had no idea. It came out of nowhere.
No, we actually did know the divorce was final. She made by the time she announced her divorce, she had already been divorced for some time.
But it was kind of... They've
been split for over a year.
It had came out of nowhere, and it was just like, I was scrolling my timeline, and it was like, boom, she hold hands, got on white, and I was like, whoa, wait, whoa. It was like, whoa, where'd that come from? And I was thinking today, I was like, we had never seen anything like that. I was just like, wow.
Actually, we have, just not with black actresses. The woman who created Orange Is the New Black left her husband for Samira Wiley.
Who say?
So yeah, she split up with her husband. Next thing you know, they're married, still married. Now, when you say, and that was her first sex relationship, period. No, I'm telling you, that was her first sex relationship. So the thing about, I don't think you can directly ask the question like, what would happen if it were a man? Because
I'm more about if it was, how would mine is it? How was the public reaction?
Well, no, that's what I was getting to, because the public is still not, especially if it were a black man, the public is still not as accepting of seeing a black man who presented straight come out as they are a woman. But I also want to celebrate it because there's only been a certain kind of black woman who's been able to come out. I can't think like Wanda Sykes. How can I say this? Wanda Sykes, black people fuck with Wanda Sykes, but she's like also kind of like a white person's black person. Do you understand? And some people aren't going to understand.
AKA, I was like, really?
And I don't have time to explain what I mean by that tonight, but I will come back to it, right? And that's not saying we don't fuck with her.
But y'all know what we're saying.
Right. But if you really look at the landscape of black entertainers over a certain age, so Gen Xers and Boomers, there are not a lot. Even Robin Roberts, she's married to a white woman. Wanda Sykes is married to a white woman. There are not a lot of out black entertainers, black women entertainers who are in relationships with black women, right? Not of a certain age.
Correct.
So I actually want to, and it's not that we like the Brat just came out like a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
We've known she was gay for 20 years.
Feature on Jermaine Dupri.
But she did not feel comfortable. It took her 20 years to feel comfortable to come out. So that's kind of what I'm getting to. So I actually want to celebrate the fact, like it's progress.
Yes, it is.
And it's a progressive step because, you know, Neicy is lusted after by both sexes, so that's not a thing. But I'm happy and I am encouraged by it. And who knows, like maybe we got to get to the point where everybody's fully okay with, you know, our black women coming out before we start talking about what if the roles were reversed and it was men. I get your point, but there's just more.
Yeah, and that's why I preface it with like, sometimes when situations happen, I'm always just like in my head, like what would happen if this was flipped and how would people react? Because I'm always interested, like, okay, what if that's fine, how come this isn't? And why do you think that way about this, but not that? And that's what popped in my head. It was like, if we had seen this black man that women liked and dudes wanted to be like, and it was attractive and had like 2 marriages, got divorced, and then out of nowhere, he was with a guy, and I just was wondering what would the reaction
But
be.
the reaction wouldn't even have been about third marriage and the time for marriage. It would be about the black person being gay, period,
Correct.
which is the difference. All right, guys, that's our time for this week. Good Lord willing and the creek don't rise. We will see y'all again on next week. Oh yeah, this is Labor Day's over. Crazy.
Did we have one?
I mean, there was
I
one.
mean, we had some
seasonally.
We had some months
we had
where
a
it was
summer
hot,
season,
but I don't feel like it was summer.
The season of summer happened. I don't know that you had.
Did you have a Nutcracker this summer? And if the answer is no, that means we didn't have a summer because you get a Nutcracker every summer.
There's a Nutcracker in my refrigerator. I have not had it yet, but that's because there's always a Nutcracker in my refrigerator. I keep. There are certain things. So I thought I had said this on here before, but maybe not. I always keep an emergency Nutcracker in my freezer, and there's about 4 Black and Milds hidden in different points in my house in case of emergency.
That is the blackest shit I have ever heard somebody say.
Because sometimes my nerves be bad, and I don't need weed. I just need like 3 puffs of a black and a swig of wine.
Why do blacks have the most signature smell to black people on earth? It don't matter how old you are or where you are. You get a sniff of a black, somebody smoked a black.
You know it's a black.
I know.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys as always for listening. You could be listening to anything in the world right now. You're listening to us. I am Naima. This is Carron Phillips. Carron, do you have any parting words for the people?
Yep. Stop giving. All right, man. Y'all funny. Good night.
Good night, or good morning. Whatever time this comes out. Thank you, Rob. All right. Peace.